great way for a delighted John Clelland to start the new season. Second on the grid, first in the race. That'll do nicely. Another 18 left, and will Rydell bog down in the Volvo again? We'll soon know. And the answer is no.
We need to work harder. It's not good enough. 2 engines in 2 races. Not acceptable. The team must push harder. Today, my regard engines must step the up and try to build the championship.
John Clelland is sandwiched between the 2 BMWs and going for first, says John Clelland. Oh, Matt Neal sideways, championship leader, entering trouble sideways, he gets it back again. It's Plato and Matt Neal, side by side.
I'm going to rip your face off. You know what that? I'm going to rip your Hey! What are we doing here? Is this stock car racing or is this motorsport? The man's an animal.
And Colin Turkington is going to become the champion for the 3rd time in his career with 1 race to stand.
And 14th is Tom Chilton. And I was really disappointed. I've been disappointed with Chilton ever since he's come back to the championship, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I've given him a 3.
Yeah,
I know he got that win at Donington in the wet, but other than that, I thought he was bang average this season.
I think that meeting stood out for me as a complete anomaly. I think you saw guys in there achieving stuff that they wouldn't have anywhere, and they didn't anywhere else. So that really, it was kind of one of those. Was like, okay, good for him, he's got that, but I don't think he's going to get it any other time, realistically.
No, but I'm just so surprised, mate, because he's still only I think 30, late 30s. So he's not old for a racing driver, turns out, but he was such a good, rapid driver in his 20s, and you thought he's going to. And I think he challenged for the title a couple of times when he was in that Aon Ford Focus, and he was always a regular race winner. Right back in his Honda Civic days, he was always a challenging for race wins and podiums. And he's come back to the championship a few years ago, and he's just looked way off the mark in whatever car he's been in.
He's comfortable racing, but he's not really got.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he's lost a bit of drive. Maybe I know he's become a family man over the last few years, and maybe he's just simply not the same guy that he was in his 20s. But I'm just surprised he's such a big drop off, because that looks a more competitive car for me than what he showed this season. And it's been the case for a few years now with the BMW, and wasn't he in the Vauxhall Astra as well? And wasn't great in that either last season. So, only a 3 for me for Tom Chilton. It looks like his best days are way behind him.
I think so. I mean, it's nice to see him still doing it, I suppose. But there might come a time. It's like, what else would he bring to the championship, to the team? Apart from just being there. I gave him a 4. I don't know if I said that at the top. So we were along the same lines.
I think you remember as well with Donington. I think he had a good grid start or something, and it was an error where I think he parked out of position or something on the grid. I think he was on pole or on the front row, and you just think it's such a basic error for the driver that experience to make. And I thought that I remember at the time thinking that just sums his season up. Really,
it really does. Not meant to happen.
It's probably the worst pod you can use, isn't it, for a racing driver, not the races. But I don't know what's happened to him since he's come back. Though he's looked a shadow of the guy before he went to the World Touring cars. But next up, 13th, Dan Lloyd. And I give Dan a 6.5.
Okay, I've gone 7. So again, we're in the same ballpark. Got a lot of time for Dan Lloyd.
Yeah.
I think like I've said already, out of all the Team Hard, he was the one that really impressed me this year. And he had his moments of just utter heartache. He was just so close to getting that first win. For for Hard and the Cooper and that, and just wasn't to be, was it? And
No.
you know, it's moments like that. But seeing how many top 10 finishes he had, he kind of lost that. I lost track of that along the way, but he really was one of those consistent ones. He's
He
one
was.
of one of our within our family sweepstakes. Can't remember which one of us has got him, but you know, constantly every week I was putting him on there for a top 10 finish. It's like, you know, you do forget sometimes, you know, how
Yeah.
often he's been up there. So,
I mean, he won those 2 races, didn't he, last season at Croft brilliantly, and that showed where give him the right equipment, put him at the front, and he knows how to win races. And I think he's not really had that opportunity his whole time in touring cars, really.
no,
He's another guy. We talk about Andrew Watson, and I think you put him in a really good car now at this stage of his career, and I think he'll get you know, he'd be a real asset to a team.
absolutely.
But yeah, he's really got a lot of time for Dan, and
Yeah.
the championship's better for having him on the grid because
I
I
think
think he's
so.
a really good
Yeah,
driver.
and he had that moment last year where we weren't sure whether he was going to be able to finish his season and that, and
Yeah,
it was great to see that he got that support, you know, to keep him in, because it just shows how important he is. You know,
it's
all
great what
round.
he does in it with all his social media stuff and the YouTube videos, and
He's great.
he's always engaged with the fans at the circuit as well. And
Yeah.
he's definitely one of the good guys on the
He
grid
really
now. I
is.
think.
He
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
So you went for 6 there, did you?
Oh, it's 7.
7. So I was 6. Was I 6?
6.5.
6.5, yeah, and you were 7. So that's 13. 12, Stephen Jelly, and I'm gone for a 5.
Yeah, I've gone for a 6, which is real kind of, like I say, mid-table sort of thing for me. It was neither here nor there. You'll spot a pattern within BMW with my scoring. There really were the disappointment, I think, this year for me in terms of what I thought was going to happen with the machinery they've got and the quality they've got in that team. And yeah, Steve Jelly was just didn't show me enough this year. And I think, again, take bad luck out of the equation because he had his share of it like everyone else did, but there just wasn't enough either side of those.
No, I agree, mate. And I like Jelly again. He's another really nice guy, and but I just don't see what he brings to the table for a team, because for me, he's been how many seasons has he done in it now? I know he had a bit of a break, but he must be on for around about 10 full seasons or something like that. But you get about 3 or 4 good races from him a year, and then averageness really for the rest of it. And it doesn't ever seem to. It never seems to have a good solid season that I can think of.
He's one of those that when he does get a podium, like I think he got at Brands at the end.
He has spells, yeah. He always seems to have like a spell. Like I remember when Turkington won his first title in 2009. I think there was I can't remember if it was Alton Park or Croft, or it might have been both. And he had a few podiums of those 2 means, but didn't really do much for the rest of that season. And he always seems to do that. He has a circuits where he always does pretty well at.
Yeah.
But doesn't do much, doesn't do enough in the rest of the season for me.
No. He came back to competition 2017 here, just quickly. I just got it up on screen. So he started in 2008, took a break in 2017. So again, one that's been around.
Well, he's done about 8, 9 seasons then, yeah.
Yeah, but he's when he gets those sort of podium positions, he does. It's one of those more kind of, for me, it's one of those more sort of surprising ones. It's to see that he's up there rather than like.
It's usually a reverse grid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than outright sort of qualifying pace or what. So yeah. 11th, just outside the top 10, was your man, Aaron Taylor-Smith. And another one of the top drivers at Power Max this season.
I refrained from giving him a 10 to be completely biased. So no, I didn't. I gave a bit like his counterparts. I gave him an 8. I think it was a solid performance for me across the whole team. And after seeing him in the Cupra last year and sort of hoping he was going to do more. It looked like he should have been doing more, but wasn't. And then immediately, almost, I think there was a couple of blips at the start of the season for him, but very, very soon those Vauxhalls took off, and you could tell he was almost like the leader of the pack if there was one.
Yeah.
Because but he did his bit at times as well. You felt for the others, he didn't really command. I'm going to be, I'm coming through. I need to be in front of my teammates. I need to be as high up as possible. He did that through his own merit, but if he had bad days, he achieved what he did towards the back. But yeah, it was fantastic to see what he was doing, and finally getting a couple of podiums again, and narrowly missing out on the win. Was it Silverstone, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
Waiting for that safety car, mate.
Well, there we go. We can kind of.
I'm still convinced, mate, that I still think if it were that safety car hadn't come out for that tiny piece of debris, and you've seen the video footage of that I sent you from earlier in the season at Brands Hatch when there was an identical piece of debris on the racing line, and the safety car didn't come out in the second meeting of the year. I still think maybe Taylor Smith or Jake Hill might have hung on for the win there, but let's not go back over old ground.
No, I mean I would like to think Aaron would have got that win, because I think whatever happened with Hill's car probably was going to happen. In my opinion, but it wasn't to be. But he got. I think he clung on for second, didn't he? He was on there, so it's a surpassed expectation, I think, really, for me.
Yeah. Well, I give him a 7, which is sort of in the ballpark of a little bit behind Watson and a little bit ahead of Doble for me. Purely because I think Doble and Watson have come in as their first season, so to do what they've done, we perhaps give them a slightly higher score. But I think Taylor Smith definitely found his mojo this season. I agree with you. I think last season I was kind of feeling the same about Taylor Smith that I've been saying tonight about Tom Chilton, where I think he'd come back and didn't look like the same driver before his break, where he was winning races and stuff. But this season he looked really good. He looked like he was back on it.
Absolutely, and he was enjoying it. You could tell that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
he really was enjoying it.
Yeah, and into the top 10 now. Rory Butcher finished 10th, and gets a 5 for me.
Yeah, I gave him a 6. Again, sort of similar kind of line. I'm surprised, but not surprised really that he was there. He snuck in the top 10, because I think he deserves to be there. He belongs there, in my opinion. I just didn't think he had that good a season. It surprised me that he did manage to finish there.
Yeah, I'm very surprised, and maybe that's again a credit to him. But I mean, my score, if it seems low, it's not a knock on Rory, but it's more what we've touched upon with Toyota, where I just don't think they gave the 3 drivers the right machinery. And maybe you're right, mate, for Rory to finish 10th ahead of the likes of Jelly and Lloyd and Watson and Moffat, and he's probably perhaps a testament to it. But I would have expected him to be in the top Toyota driver, and he was behind Ricky Collard, wasn't he? So again, I take that into consideration, and I just think Toyota needs to up their game next season, and he only gets a 5 for me.
I think a little bit like I said with Dan Lloyd. Actually, he's one of those that you forget how many top 10 finishes he had, but I think you come to expect Rory to have that. I think he should really be finishing higher than that. I think top 5. I think more consistently than just top 10. So,
well, was it this season or last season where he was seen as a bit of a dark horse for the title one of the season?
Last year, I think.
Was it? Yeah, and justifiably so as well. Yeah, it was justified, wasn't it? But but they just didn't give him the right car this season. No. Well, so you were 6th there, were you?
I was, yes.
Yeah. So now 9th. I'm slightly surprised he's this high up, really, because it seems to be a campaign that flattered to deceive, and that's Adam Morgan. And again, I give him a 5 for a similar, and I'd say a similar thing that I've said about Rory Butcher. Really, you could copy and paste it for Adam Morgan.
Yeah.
Team did try to give him the best car, and
I gave him a 6, so exactly the same score I gave for Rory. So again, we're looking at them on on the same level as each other. I think, yeah, same reasons. I think, yeah, he didn't really stand out for me. I loved Adam Morgan when he first came in the competition.
Yep.
You know, he's had some of my favourite cars. Really, looking back over it, and I've always kind of rooted for him to be up there.
Then Bumblebee Mercedes, I'll always associate with Adam Morgan. Yeah, and he was brilliant in that car as well, wasn't he?
He was. But yeah, just wasn't there for me this year. Just didn't really do anything of much note for me.
Yeah, steady, good, steady driver. But he did better. He seemed to do better in the private. The Sicily BMW last season, didn't he seem more? I don't know whether that was a mistake. I mean, it's a bit out of my memory, but he just seemed to do better in the Sicily BMW rather than the.
This is only my personal opinion. Again, you've got a lot of people out there who will probably shoot me down in flames, but I find that BMW quite boring. I don't enjoy watching them at all. I think I may have said that, either the fact that it just looks cumbersome and that it doesn't seem to it's not very competitive this year. Yep. And I don't get excited by seeing them up the front. The only one who I think I am excited when he's doing well is Jake Hill's one.
Yeah.
Whether there's something different under the hood there, I really don't know. But it's just, they don't.
No, I agree, mate. And we'll probably come to that a bit for him when we get higher up, because I've got a similar sentiment to you on that, and we've kind of gone over it on previous podcasts. Eighth, obviously the best Toyota driver, and I think he was the best Toyota driver as well. He certainly looked the better. He was better to watch, and that's Ricky Collard. Give him a 5.5. Possibly a 6. Should have won a race, really. I still think it was ridiculous how he got stripped of it. To me, that was.
He wasn't happy either.
If Dan Lloyd was the heartbreak of the season, the way he lost the win at Donington, Ricky Collard was the one that's really had me throw my toys out the pram. With anger when he had that win taken off him, because it was such a brilliant drive from him as well. And
it really was.
Remember, he lost the lead, didn't he, to Sutton, and he threw it back up the inside at Paddock and got it back when he looked like he'd been under pressure for the last few laps, and you didn't how he got back up there. It was unbelievable.
I remember the remarking on commentary as well, the fact, because that was when he got a penalty, didn't he? So he was up the front,
the grand tax, the track limits.
Yeah, and I'll come to that in a second as well in terms of a theme with him. And it almost looked like, he either didn't have word of it, or it was like he's got word of this, but he's fighting anyway because he believes he shouldn't, that shouldn't have been sort of inflicted upon him. And it was great to see, kind of, again, it's still this like this elbows out, 2 fingers up kind of attitude that we seem to be missing a little bit of the competition. I think if there's any element of it in any of the drivers, it's him.
And it was the one time the Toyota really did look on the pace, didn't it? It looked rapid. It showed the potential that car has got. I might put it up to a 6 actually, because while we've been talking, I remember he qualified 3rd as well, didn't he? Oulton Park, outright pace. Yeah. So he had in a car that did struggle for a lot of the season. He had some he had Toyota's best moments, I think. Well, without, I suppose Roy Butcher had Toyota's best moment by actually winning, but I think Ricky Collard was the star for me.
Whenever I was watching qualifying, how relevant this is, I don't know, but because there were a lot of times, obviously, a lot of drivers lost their fastest laps because of track limits, and that almost always you can guarantee Ricky Collard's name was up there. He
drives on the edge, doesn't he? He's a driver that drives on the absolute maximum, and
this is where it doesn't seem to, because I say he's got the attitude, he's got the real kind of the fight in him that the great BTCC legends of the last 10, 20 years had, that we seem to be missing. This is where regulations don't allow for that now. How much has that taken away from his success this year? Purely based on that, took a win away. That's
going to end up with processions, mate, if they don't start to really. I was a big fan of his dad, though. His dad was one of my favourite ever touring car drivers. I loved Rob right from when he was in Vectras in the late 90s. He was always a favourite driver of mine. So having a Collard on the grid is definitely a good thing, and hopefully he's back next season. And
hopefully, because he wasn't meant to be.
He would be talking about retiring, wasn't he, a year ago? He was disillusioned, and
Yeah, I think
I'm so glad that he did.
Was he the one that was moving to Australia? Have I got that wrong? Was he? I can't
I think
remember now.
that might have been Sam Oliphant, wasn't it?
Oh, no, he was already
Unless
over
Ricky was
there.
going to do it as well. But I
I
think
thought
Sam
Ricky
Oliphant
said something.
moved to
Yeah.
Australia, I think, with a couple of years ago.
But yeah, he announced, I think, the end of last season, didn't he? That he was.
Oh, right.
That was it. That he wasn't. That he wasn't going to come back to BTCC, which is why I was quite surprised when he sort of did a bit of a U-turn. But he is good to watch. It's just a shame sometimes that you can't blame him for having his style. He has inherited that.
Well, he reminds me of a young Ash Sutton.
Yeah.
Jake Hill, those three drivers have got very similar styles. Jake Hill and then Ash Sutton, there's like a ladder there where Ash Sutton's obviously evolved and polished it up a bit more. Jake's got there this year. Ricky will probably do the same over the next couple of years. But he's an exciting driver to watch.
He is. He is.
Yeah.
Good character as well.
Yeah. Seventh, Dan Rowbottom. Robo, I give him a 6.5.
Okay. I'm a little more generous. I've given him an 8. And the one note that I've put beside him here is great team player, because I think he really did a little bit like I said, Ronan Pearson got embroiled in this and probably lost a few better results because he had to. I think Dan Rowbottom is one of the best. One of the best reasons. No, I'm not going to say he was one of the main reasons behind Ash winning the title, but he's definitely one of the ones responsible for him being quite safe. I think having him and Camish, but particularly Robo, I think he really did take it on the chin a lot this year.
Well, did he sacrifice a qualifying position at Silverstone or Brands as well?
I think you might be right.
And obviously gave up a place at Croft as well. But no, I became a real fan of Robo this year, and I wasn't a fan of his at the start of the season. I just didn't see what he brought to the table. He just hadn't seen anything from him really in his 2 previous years. But no, I really grew to like Robo over the course of the season, and he had a lot of bad luck as well, which is the only real reason I've put him slightly lower down is because of some of that bad luck he had and giving up positions. Because I'd like to see if he can just find a bit of consistency, a little bit more consistency. There's a real top driver in there that can really compete for touring car titles over the next few years. He's been a revelation this season with a bit of bad luck in there.
I'm not going to sort of keep banging on about team orders and things like that. It's something that I totally get it exists, and I get why it exists. I think sometimes it does kind of ruin the competitive nature of it. I think Dan Rowbottom, we would see the best of him if he moved away from Napa, and didn't have to almost play second or third fiddle to Ash Sutton.
Maybe.
I think, in a team where he could just go and he could get the results that he deserves to get.
I kind of agree with you, and I kind of disagree. The only thing is, I know what you're saying, but I personally think it's Dan Camish that needs to find another team and be the number one. And I think then that with Robo getting promoted to the next in line, if you know what I mean, that would benefit him in turn anyway. Because I think obviously I don't know I'm not inside Dan Camish's head, but I think he's a champion in waiting, and I'm not sure he's going to get that at Napa as long as Ash is there. He's someone that could maybe. He's someone that could maybe go to a Toyota or someone and be their number one driver and help push that project on. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
again, not saying Ash's success is stifling those others in the team, because I mean he's done wonders for the team because of what he's done. Yeah. But I do think competition wise, you in order to grow, I think sometimes you just need to grow outside of that, don't you? Really.
Well, they were the best car, weren't they? The best team, and they had the best team of drivers as well.
Yeah, I think so.
As forgetting Sutton's class, but Sutton, Camish, Robo in particular, those 3 drivers were all top drivers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Who's
next?
So what were you? Sorry, did you say 7
Where am I?
for Robo?
Robo 8 I have.
8.
Yeah.
So the next one is Camish, and I go a little bit lower, and that's a 6.
I went one lower, gave him a 7. Yeah, brilliant start to the season. You know, three
Yeah.
pole positions he had, and he had the first 2 of the first 2 meetings. So he really started the Napa ball rolling.
Yeah.
He's just had rotten luck at the end. It's just one thing after another in the last few meetings, really.
I don't think any driver had as much bad luck as in this season, really.
No.
Because after Croft, I honestly believed he was a dark horse for the title. I thought, because if you remember at that time, Ash was still struggling in the 3rd race,
Yes.
and he hadn't made a brilliant start to his season, Ash. So although he had a brilliant Stetson and Donington, he was sort of recovering from a bad start.
Yeah.
I just thought Dan was being consistent, and I thought if Ash keeps having these reliability issues, he could be the one to capitalise. But instead, I mean, after Croft and they went to Knockhill, it was just pure bad luck, wasn't it? Then he had
really
terrible luck at Knockhill. He was out at the meeting at Donington, which meant he had to race a 2-year-old car at Silverstone, was effectively out of it. So he basically had 3 meetings where he didn't score any points.
Yeah. It just wrote his season off that pretty much from then, you know.
Yeah.
Any
He had one top 5 finish in the last 4 meetings. So well, after Croft. So
it was, as in football terms, it really was a season of 2 halves for him, really, wasn't it? Because
he was so unlucky. And he finished second at a meeting. He finished second at Snetterton and got a 2-player ride height. So he had bad luck there. Also, he had pure bad luck this season.
Yeah.
Pure bad luck. Because he's a class act. He's a multiple champion, isn't he? Everything he's done, he's naturally brilliant. As soon as he got into touring cars, talks to like a duck to water and blitzed. Mighty Matt Neal. So he's clearly a class act, but he just had so much bad luck this season.
Yeah. This again, one of those. Next season's another. Is he going to be much of the same? I think he might be one of those who takes something away from this season to determine. Some of that was machinery issues as well. It's not all at his feet, but got to come back fighting, come out swinging. He came out swinging this year. I dare say we're gonna have a strong start from next year. It's just how much he can keep that up.
Yeah.
Keep clear of the drama. That's one of those, I think.
Yeah. Well, we go into the top 5, and Josh Cook, who surprised me by finishing 5th.
Yeah.
He didn't win a race, but he was consistent, and he won the Independence Champion. And I give him a 6.5, maybe push to a 7.
Okay, I've been generous in giving him an 8 because can take away. He won the Independence Championship in a season where he didn't win a race. Get the same point. And his first winless season since 2017 as well. So by his standards, a poor season.
5 podiums.
5 podiums. See, I mean, again, this is where consistency really does come in. And there's one other that we've yet to mention, which I've been making this point again. And it just shows you have to be winning races to really finish where, near the top of the table. But I sense his frustration this year. And he is one of those next to, if I've got my personal favourites, now that Plato's not in it, obviously ATS, but Josh Cook is the other guy that I really do push for because he's a Thruxton lad as well. I feel like I share in that because he's not too far from where I grew up. So, I kind of feel a bit of an affinity with him, but I just really do want him to do well. And it's just he didn't do anything else wrong this year. I don't think, to be honest, there weren't really many moments he got a foot wrong. He was.
He was lucky at Thruxton, not Thruxton, Knockhill, wasn't he? Him and Ash were having a brilliant race.
Yeah, and it was fantastic to watch. And just conditions being what they were, it didn't take much contact from Sutton if there was any at all, and that was his race done. And it's just those little gremlins, isn't it? That pop up, not by his doing, but I think good season. He should be pleased with what he did, really.
Yeah. Fourth in the standings was Colin Turkington.
This will be an interesting one.
My favourite driver, big fan over the years, but 6.5 for me. And I might even be being quite generous. Still got 4 wins, but a few of those came from reverse grids.
I was going to say, he became the king of the reverse grid, didn't he, really? Yeah, seemed to just be in those right positions to benefit from that most times.
It was the first season, wasn't it, really, that he's been done by his teammate as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's, again, I don't, like we've said about a couple of drivers, I've really not loved that BMW or WSR this season. I think, for me, they should be I would think are by far the best funded team on the grid. And I think what we've got from them in terms of results has been way short. Certainly from the 3 sort of, the Turkington, Jelly, Morgan three way short of what I would have expected. And just really need to pull their finger out over the winter, I think, collectively.
A little bit like I did with Power Max, I have given those 3 drivers a bit of a blanket score there, because I did really feel like as a whole they were quite disappointing. So I'll give Colin Turkington a 6. He's one of those you could predict who the top 4 were going to be. I just thought he would have been a lot more competitive.
I think he sets such a high standard, doesn't he, for himself? I mean, he's a pure class act, one of the touring car greats. And like I say, I certainly not all on his doing by any stretch. But I think Jake Hill has to really. I've said it about Colin in the past couple of years. I think he's been having to wring the neck to get results out of that BMW. And I'd still say the same thing about Jake Hill. I think he's had to wring the neck out of it, which has maybe led to some unforced errors from him, where he's spun off. But that BMW just seems to be a car where you've got to drive it on the limit to get anything out of it, and that sometimes leads to mistakes. Then, if you want to just try and cruise around, you maybe end up getting the kind of results that Adam Morgan and Jelly have got, where you're down the order, really hoping for misfortune from other drivers to get a good result. And he should be doing far better than that with the resources they've got.
Really should, and not taking anything away from him. He's 4-time champion himself. A legend. Who is still on the track and finishing 4th in the championship after this many years. And
still winning races.
Achievement. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he has, like you said, he has just set that bar that we always think he should be achieving more than he did. And I think he is capable of more. Definitely. Oh, yeah. Definitely. And that, the car, I would put a lot of this down to the car. I think it just not set the world alight this year at all.
No. It won, didn't it? Its first season in 2019, and it won straight out of the box, won the championship. Albeit only won one. Was that the season only one win? I can't remember now. That was the season. Yeah, that was his last win, wasn't it? So I can't remember now. Yeah, which was which. Might have been the season before that, but either way, it won that season. But since then, it's never looked a good car for me in the other seasons.
No.
And I think which kind of brings us on to the next driver, Jake Hill. We might as well switch into that, because I've given Jake an 8.
Same here.
I think for him to get 6 wins from that car, is absolutely fantastic. And
he was definitely the one with killer instinct as well. That age as well. I'm not sure what you would say, but he really was. He was driving to win. You didn't get that
the wheels off it.
Yeah, and you didn't get that impression from the other ones, really, that they were really giving it everything. But
I mean, how much of it is the reason I find it awkward, but is he a West Surrey Racing fully fledged driver, or is he Mark Blundell Motorsport?
I get confused. I think he is.
Because he mentions both in interviews. Obviously, it's a different colour scheme. It's a different social media page and all that. And
officially, he races for Laser Tools Racing with MB Motorsport.
That's it. Yeah, so that's why I sometimes when I try and compare them, I compare Turkington, Morgan, Jelly, and then for me, it's almost like Jake Hills is running his own by himself with a different team.
It's a WSR built
Oh, he's still in the
WSR run
WSR
car,
garage. Yeah, he's still
but
in the garage there. And
he and Mark Blundell Motorsport are doing whatever it is that they're Wesso Racing probably they provided the car.
yeah, I don't know, but whatever it is, I don't know what's different, but they seem to have got far better results than the
Yeah.
three WSR cars, haven't they? So again, there's got to be some head scratching going on there,
Yeah.
and but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think Jake did really really well this season, and
his shortfalls, like you've already suggested, his shortfalls really came from the fact that he was driving on the edge, and there isn't room for error in BTCC dog match anyway, and a lot of his non-results or his lower results came after he was chasing a win or a podium, and just a momentary lapse of something. And
Brock's was one, wasn't it, where he had two spins on his own?
Yeah.
And you think was that just a little bit of roughness that needs ironing out, or was that really because you've got to drive the car like that to get results out of it, and then you're going to end up
give at some point,
Yeah,
I don't think it's a car designed to be driven like that regularly. All the way through a race, typically every race, and something not go wrong. Yeah, don't know, but no, I mean he was by far he was the best. I've got here best performing BMW on the grid. That went without saying. But yeah.
Well, he was the best of the rest for me, mate. Because we go on to second, Tom Ingram, and I give him a 7.5.
Okay.
Is that harsh?
Again, I'm not going to say anything.
No, again, it's I think a little bit like Colin Turkington. I think because he set the bar so high.
Yeah,
and to be fair, I've got to hear that he had only 2 wins, but 8 seconds. He was there, but he was so consistent. But I feel like maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I suppose just as a champion.
I get what you mean.
7.5, but it could be a bit harsh. It was one of those. I couldn't really give Jake Hill more than an 8. And so I thought comparing the two, so it was Ingram v Hill, and I think Ingram's slightly behind for me in terms of machinery and results.
I kind of let fly with these last two. So Tom Ingram for me, I've given him a 9 because it's consistency. I think if anything, he has proven. I know it was a tall order for him to be in with a shout of the. Mathematically, he was still in with a shout at the beginning of the final round. Realistically, I think he was too far behind to really wrestle away that championship, unless Ash Sutton did something or something happened to Ash Sutton. For me, consistency just shows 2 wins, finished second. As a defending champion. He was always there, putting some fantastic drives, even at times when, he was further back. Whether it these instances of tyre choices that meant that he had to pit late and he ended up at the back.
Donington wasn't he brilliant when he won that race there.
There was just some fantastic drives in those last sort of 3 meetings that I remember.
I could possibly push it up to an 8, mate. Actually, listening to you there, because I think where I say he expect a bit high because he's such a top driver and he only got 2 wins. He was the champion and blah blah. But you can turn around and say he was consistent, and then you look, I remember him saying that he didn't love the car for the first half of the season with Donington. He said, I feel like I've got my car back.
Yeah.
So was he maybe punching above that car's weight, at the start of the season and getting the results that he did? So I'd probably give him an 8 then, to be fair. Yeah. Same as Hill. Hill won more races, but Tom was more consistent, wasn't he?
He was what I remember us saying as well. I think after the restart, we were saying that he hadn't really. He had no drama. Where he was steering clear of all that, and then obviously was it Knock Hill, if I remember rightly, with the ride height. And all of a sudden that was his drama, and that had a massive impact.
That was the only real piece of bad luck that I can think they had all season, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that
whereas if you think of the likes of Jake Hill and Dan Camish and Robo had a lot more bad luck, and even Ash Sutton had more bad luck with some of his collisions and start season stuff like that. So
avoided all of that, and that the ride height thing. Him and Chilton, it was a mistake made somewhere in that pit stop. I feel, I don't know. Again, I'm not a mechanic or anything, but that's one of the things. Yeah, you change the height because of the size of the tires or whatever it was. It was something the other teams did, and obviously for it to affect Chilton as well, it was something that Accelerate didn't. By the looks
Well, I
of
think
it.
that was why Ronan Pearson got excluded from the Donington meeting as well.
Could well be.
On third, and if you remember, that was in the wet as well. I think that was
Yes,
the right. So
could
yeah,
well be.
it's happened a few times with that team.
Yeah,
So yeah, they've got to learn the lesson there for next season.
They do.
So yeah, I'll push that up to an 8, mate. So for me, Ingram and Hill both get an 8, but they're way behind. I mean, it's 10 almost doesn't seem fitting, does it? To see, that's why I tried to keep my scores quite low.
Yeah,
Because so many were way because Ashton was so far out in front.
Yeah.
So yeah, I should get to 10 and
That's
12 wins, record breaking year. The stats say it all, don't they?
that's exactly what I've got here. 10. It's always fantastic to witness records being broken, and I mean they were going left, right, and centre with him towards the end, and for him to now be alongside the greats like Colin Turkington and Andy Rouse, he's got the best chance, like we've said before, of breaking that record now, I feel, because I think he could do that within the next couple of years for sure. Yeah, I think he had his moments as well. He had drama. He had times he made mistakes. He ended up putting the car into the barriers and in the wall. He didn't finish races, yet he still managed to win by that margin.
Well, he only had a third place, mate, at the first meeting of the year. He kind of gave everybody a head start and still ended up wiping the floor with everyone. So
exactly, six qualifies, and he won the Wingfoot Award for most pole positions. I mean, just shows the dominance. I know that isn't the whole picture because anything can happen when the race starts, but it just shows Napa were all over it this year, and you can't come close, really, in my opinion, to what he did.
They certainly raised the bar, and you hope that other teams will take a look at what they've done and how early they got out for testing and things like that, and the level of drivers as well within the team. And you hope that maybe a few other teams can do likewise and up their game, and we end up with an even better championship next season. Then
hope so. Now, we're not going to delve into these, but I will mention, only because it links to Ash Sutton, a couple of these updates that have come through for next season. One of them being, I think it's the turbo. Is it the turbo?
Hybrid.
Something to do with hybrid, isn't it? But I
know the boost has been up. Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone.
No, but they're doubling
deep into it.
Doubling the allowance for it, and that. I know Ash was one of those drivers who's tested it, and reading what he was saying the other day, and I mean, he said it's definitely giving more competitiveness here on the grid, across the grid. So we could see, even though hybrid, I wouldn't say it's really played a massive part at times in deciding this, because Ash has done all of this with the least amount of hybrid.
Yeah.
But the fact that we might see the pack bunch up a bit more for next year, will it be a walk in the park like it was this year? Don't know. It might be a bit more exciting.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I mean, I saw, looking at some of the comments that people were saying on Facebook, it was people saying, they're going to be close to the Porsche times. So I don't know whether that was a tongue in cheek or what, but I mean,
that'd be good if it was.
It can be, but that can only be a good thing. Isn't it? We want to see the cars getting faster and faster as well all the time. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, that was great. That was great fun there. I think it was a right. We weren't that far off, I think, between each other, which was nice, because I thought I was going to be way off on some of those.
And I hope we weren't too harsh on drivers. Like I say, it's difficult because when you're giving Ash, I mean, I think every driver, whether you're a professional driver, whether you've never, never sat behind the wheel of a race car, everyone would agree that Ash was clearly a class act. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody really give him less than a 10. So then when you've got to assess the whole field, sometimes you've got to have a bit of a gap between, haven't you? So
and I think there's definitely some in there. Some of the ones where we scored lower, which I would really like to see them have the seasons next year that they should have had.
Yeah. But there wasn't any, the drivers that were down there, we gave low scores too. Like we said a couple of times, there wasn't many drivers down there that were chucking it off all the time. These aren't bad drivers by any stretch of the stretch them
No.
out, but we've had to mark them and grade them kind of, when you collectively, really, and also a lot of these drivers are so much bad luck, or the team or the manufacturer may not have provided the equipment for them, so it's not, these grades aren't a dig or a jibe at those drivers, or the top drivers at the end of the day. But we've tried to be, haven't we, as
impartial,
honest
fair,
and
but
constructive as we can be.
But at the end of the day, these scores aren't based on anything technical at all.
No.
We could have sat here and if we'd have done it by results, we would just roll out the championship table and we would say, well, there you go, like we have done. But there's more to it than that. There's more stories to be told. There's guys that were lowered down, which really, for other reasons, could be considered to have a good season. So just in closing, then, so the season as a whole, if you were going to give the season itself a rating out of 10, what would you say?
Compared to other seasons, I would give this one a 5. And I would put it in my nearly 30 years of following it. I would, unfortunately, mate, I would possibly say it's one of the weakest seasons I've seen. It's certainly in the bottom few. I think it's mainly memorable for Ash Sutton and Napa. Their domination and the records broke is what will really make it a memorable season. But I think there's with rules like I think the hybrid hasn't worked as well as it should do. I think some of the track limitation rules, and I think some of the barriers and stuff like that are getting put. There's been so many things within the championship which have been frustrating this season. It's not been the most competitive of title challenges, has it, and stuff like that. So I think you put all that into the mix. I think it's. That's one of those weak ones, yeah.
I was thinking of 6. Now I know there's some seasons that I haven't been witness to that probably I missed a lot of the exciting stuff. So you might knock this one down a little bit, but exactly
it's difficult, though.
It wasn't. It didn't have the excitement there. I think we all could see where it was going to go, and there really wasn't. Once you could see Ash was starting to pull away a bit, realistically, nobody I would have thought he was going to lose that, or it was his to lose. But
but it wasn't even just because Ash was dominating, mate. Because like I say, I loved the 1997 season and 96, and they were dominated by Renault or the Audi, for example, or the Nissans in 99. But there was always, it was really competitive then, for second, or there was lots of good drivers there tripping over themselves to finish second, and really good racing going to pack. I just didn't think it was exciting racing a lot of the time this year, unless a lot of the time it relied on the weather to spice things up. I think I'm going through watching it, and I put it in my notes here just so there was probably Thruxton part, maybe Croft, and Donington part GP, which I would put down as dull meetings, really. I mean, and when I say dull, it's dull in inverted commas, because I don't think touring cars can ever really be completely dull. But in terms of touring car standards, there was probably at least 3 or 4 meetings there where that wasn't the touring cars I know and love.
No, there wasn't a lot of change going on. I think we discussed before we came on. I think with Thruxton, you said where the first 2 races, the top 7 were exactly the same.
Yeah. First 2 races, the top 7 was exactly the same, and I'd love to see how often that's happened in the touring cars. I think even went from watching that. I think Josh Cook said after the second. I mean, Josh Cook always had a face of thunder.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I don't know how that looked from the sofa, but that was a pretty boring processional race from what I could see."
It.
And he was, and he wasn't joking when he said it. His face was dead straight, and he was, it's hard to disagree with that. And I think Tom Ingram said something similar, and it's
because they want the excitement as well of if you're just literally following suit, you're in that pack, and all you're doing is following each other around.
They do, and I think the championship is kind of sometimes, and we have just touched on it before. So apologies to people who have listened to these and have heard it before, but I do think sometimes the championship is the artifact of its own downfall. Is that the word? I don't know. I might have brought the word wrong. But architect of its own downfall, because when you're bringing in these track limitations and the push to pass rule, which is better, so fine. It becomes. I do think a lot of it becomes a possession then, because drivers can't take the risk to go through maybe, and it just all conspires to a lack of entertainment. I think the race 2 could really be looked at as being need to be spiced up. I mean, that'd be the one rule I think that really needs to be looked at. Whatever they do, I mean, whether it's a case of picking your second best qualifying from the Saturday, or whether it's a case of picking the fastest drivers from race 1. But they need to do something, I think, just to mix up that second race, because you're finding the first and 2 being pretty processional.
Yeah, and I think I can't put my finger on which one it is, but I'm pretty sure there is at least one of the support competitions that they could learn from in that respect, where they do mix that up. I think there is one where each of the 3 races has something.
Yeah.
The order is determined by something, and it's not just the finishing of the last race.
Yeah, you would have to do. I mean, if you were going to do that, if you were going to say, it'll be the fastest finishers from race 1, fastest laps from race 1 will determine starting grid for race 2. You would have to tweak it. What you wouldn't want is. Do you remember the 1997, the Princess Diana meeting?
Yeah.
At Brands Hatch, when basically every driver that was outside the top 10 started pitting for new tyres and basically just wrote off the race and used it as a qualifying lap to start, and a couple of them started high up. So you wouldn't want that to happen. So you'd have to have some kind of a rule to stop that from going on. But they could certainly do with doing something, because I think it's that second race for me that really needs to be switched up a bit. And I think sometimes as well, it's maybe it's fair, I don't know, but I think it's unfair if you have an issue in race 1, which might not be your fault, your race 2 is buggered then. So you're only really getting one good race, and sometimes I think that's a bit unfair as well. Especially if it's a driver that's done nothing wrong, they have 2 races messed up through the format, really. So
it's a good shout. It's an interesting concept and idea. So we'll see if that.
And it hasn't changed, mate. As if for over 10 years, it's high time to do something. I mean, it's a long time that format hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well, here we go.
15 years, it might be 15 years. I think
since I've been watching it, I think
maybe 2006 or something. It's been the same format, really.
Yeah. So high time, just add a bit more spice in there. But, Lee, I think we've wrapped that one up quite nicely. Was that
a 2-hour show, or was that 1?
It's getting on. It's our longest show ever, but I think it definitely needed it, because that is, we've obviously gone a lot more in depth with all the drivers on the grid. We haven't given them all mentions and time before, so it's good to do that. And what I will say, that is 2023 wrapped up with a nice little bow on it. We've got we're planning one more episode before we go on our own little winter break for a bit. But we are stepping away, or we're looking anyway. We haven't decided the particular topic, but we are looking at stepping away from this season to finish on something that focuses on a bit more of a retro feel. So if you follow us on Facebook, throw your suggestions in. If there's any particular season, car, driver happening that you think might be interesting for us to delve into, we can definitely have a look at those as possibilities. But Lee, it's been a pleasure as always, mate. And
it has. And before we go, I do want to give another shout out to the BTCC chat group on Facebook, British Touring Car Chat, and Kevin there for again give us a share today, and
thank you, mate.
Really has helped grow this page as almost as much as you and I, to be honest, mate. He's been almost like a silent partner, hasn't he, in a way? So really grateful to Kev for his support, and thanks to everyone who has liked the page and takes the time to watch these shows or listen to them, and just spread the word. And the more the merrier, and it'll only make for a better show next season.
It will. We'll go into next year on our first full season together. I haven't managed to carry this through one full season yet, so it'll be really good to hit the ground running, and when we decide to come back, and we'll be back before the start of the season, because we'll do a bit of a lead into it. We're not just going to launch in with the first one. So anyway, that's to come. We've still got one more show to go, so thank you for all of your views, listens, likes, shares, And do join us again in a couple of weeks where we go back in time. I almost said Back to the Future then, but it's not what we're doing at all. So see what we're going to think about. You know, we'll have a discussion between ourselves, and I think there's some really great things we can finish on for a bit of fun. So,
yeah.
Anyway, Lee, take it easy, mate. Until then, and thank you guys out there. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks. And see you then.
That's it. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook to keep updated about all future shows.